Well, hello, and welcome to the ZBrush Live Pixologic stream. My name is Ara Kermanikian, and if you are new to my streams, I've done 4 seasons before. This is season 5. So if you're new to my streams, we basically do more mechanical stuff. I've done vehicles in the first 4, so this one's going to be a character season. So we're going to do either one or more characters, and I'm going to share some of my really cool stuff that I do for characters, especially if you're working in a company where you need to do skins or you just like working with characters. We're going to be working on characters this season, and we always start out the season saying it's going to be 8 episodes, but we tend to go further, maybe to 10 and 12 at the most. Okay, so with that said, just to let you guys know a little bit about me, I'll go ahead and bring this up. My website is Kermaco.com, so Kermaco.com, and we go ahead, and I'm actually talking about the stuff, but let me just do this little bit of housekeeping before I get rid of this slide. If you're watching this wherever you're watching it, if you like it, definitely drop a like. If you want to watch more of it, drop a subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any comments. And if you have questions, you can leave your questions in the comments as well. I answer questions during the stream, but the stuff is it's saved, and you can watch it pretty much whenever you want to. So if you are watching it and I'm not online and you have questions, you can always put them in the comments, and somebody from Pixologic or myself, if I'm looking at it at some point, will go ahead and respond. Okay, so like, subscribe, leave a comment, and if you have questions, please ask. And you can ask questions during this in the chat. I tend to answer them if I can. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get to my page. So my website is Kermaco.com, Kermaco, like you see up here. And this is where you can see some of the stuff I'm working on. So we've worked on mechs. Here's an example of some of the mechs I've worked on and done. These are all personal projects. If I have commercial ones, I list them somewhere else. But these are all personal projects. Here are some vehicles that I've worked on. I'll go ahead and zoom in on a few. We did do a car like this in one of the seasons. I think it was either 3 or 2. No, it was season 2. So you can go back and watch how I go through my process of making these. And of course, today we're going to go do some characters. So here are some characters. All of these are done in ZBrush. Some a long time ago. I think this one right here was about maybe 10 years ago I did it. This is maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. This is more recent. This is the same thing I showed you earlier, but rendered in a different way. So there's a lot of different characters that I've worked on over the years, and I want to add some new ones to this list. So that's what we're going to be working on in this season of the stream. Okay, so one thing I should do is I'm assuming that my voices and video are coming through okay, so let's just do a quick check. All right, so it looks like somebody is up at 5 a.m. to see this, so awesome. And he's asking me, okay, so Get Wrecked is asking me if I like the new hard surface brushes, and the answer to that is I love them. They're so cool. So yeah. And I'll be showing you some of the new stuff in ZBrush as well as I go along. One of the workflows that I had that I've been working on has been greatly improved by that, so I'll be showing that as well. Anyway, so this is my website. You can see all my stuff in here. All my social media is down here, so you can go to, if you want to go to my Instagram or whatever, Behance, which I should update one of these days. My YouTube channel, which has very few videos, but of course you can always go to the Pixologic channel to watch the different videos. So most of my newer work I post on Instagram, and this is the thing we were looking at earlier, which I just posted on here a while back. So This is just as I was working on it. At some point, I just posted the image. It's definitely work in progress. It's not done. And this, I don't know if this is going to be the thing we're going to be working on this season, but I might be bringing this character in on and off to do different things to it. Okay, so with that said, I also have a Gumroad that you can go to. I have this primitives brush, which is free. I'll be using these two, and I also have one that has some extra parts in it that is that's for a nominal fee. And I also have my UI colors here that's available as well. Both of these are free. You can download them from my Gumroad. I should mention that my UI colors have changed a little bit, and I might be adding that to this as well. All right, so where you can find me is on ZBrush Live. So if you go to ZBrush Live and you go to presenters and you scroll down the list, down here, I am somewhere in this list. It keeps moving around as they add and remove people. Here I am. And if you go to my page here, you can scroll down, and here are all the different things I've done, all the different streams I've done in the past. So last season we did a mech. We did this mech right here, which you can also see on my Instagram right over here. I've done quite a few renders of it. Here's one that's kind of in motion. Here's one when it's kind of at rest, and I did a frontal view of that as well. Plus I've got quite a few other images of it as well. So if you want to see how this is made, you can watch all the different streams here on ZBrush Live. And the season before that, we did the spaceship, so you can watch that as well. And then the season before that, the 2 seasons before that, we did a spinner, which is kind of a flying car, which is this one right here, and you can go watch that as well. And the first season was this robot. So we're kind of circling back to doing some sort of a character, but we're going to do a humanoid one this time around. You can always find these videos also on Pixologic's YouTube channel. In addition to my videos, there's quite a few really great videos on here that you can watch. So I invite you to go look at those as well if you haven't. And I also have some workshops on Gnomon Workshop. I've got one that is a really detailed one on designing this mech right here. And it's a very detailed, as you can see here, 19 chapter tutorial starting from scratch and going all the way from gathering references to doing a lot of the modeling, texturing in Substance Painter, rendering it in Keyshot, and compositing it in Photoshop. So if you're interested in something like that, definitely go watch that. And I also have a video or a tutorial on photogrammetry, and of course the Gnomon Workshop itself has a ton of really great videos. The way you can find me is if you just go to the homepage, go to Browse, and then go to Browse by Instructor, and I'm between the INL section, and there I am. So you can find me there, and you can find my videos there. All right, so that's basically kind of who I am and the kind of work that I do. So nobody responded if you can hear me okay. I'm hoping that everybody's hearing all this okay. So if everybody from each one of the different services, from Twitch, from YouTube, and from Facebook can chime in that you can see my videos okay and you can hear me okay, that would be awesome. All right, so Twitch sounds good, thank you. ETKF Comics. And YouTube looks good as well, awesome. So I think Facebook, there's a little bit of a delay. So if we get, let's see. All right, so yeah, no, YouTube and Twitch look like they're fine. I'm sure Facebook is fine too. If you guys are fine, Facebook usually, I think there's a tiny bit of a delay. I don't know why, but it's cool. All right, so here we are in ZBrush 2021.7. If you guys have not upgraded, what are you waiting for? It's a free upgrade. One of the things that I really like about Pixologic is that they make their software available, their upgrades available for free, or at least they have until now, and that's always a welcome thing for me because it definitely makes it a good investment. So as a matter of fact, somewhere around here I've got my ZBrush CD. Here it is, the first one that I bought a long time ago, and if you look at it, it's version 3, so it's ZBrush 3, and it's kind of an interesting thing that it's on CD. I bought it a while back, and I have not yet have to pay for an upgrade, and so for me that's kind of a good deal. All right. Oh wow, we got somebody from Jamaica. Hey, Jace Cover, welcome. And looks like we got quite a few people today. Awesome. All right. Well, let's get going. All right. So what I want to share with you today is just this technique that I use, and I'll be doing mostly that today. Hopefully, maybe a few other things. But basically, the technique that I use is to take a character, like, let's see if I've got the human here. Yep. So, like, let's say a human being like this, right here. And this is a human being that I've purchased on ArtStation, and I'll just do a plug real quick for the guy who made it. I've made some modifications to it, and I'll be talking about that later. But it was I kind of just picked it up because I thought I liked it. And I'm glad that I did. So it's by this guy, Alexander Ladosha. Okay, and if you go to his ArtStation and go to the store, he's got some characters there, and it's this one right here, male body topology plus UV. And the price is it's okay for what it is. The reason why I liked it is because I kind of liked some of the proportions and the body marks on it. And I thought it would be a good one to use. But you don't have to go and purchase that. In ZBrush itself, there are a couple of really good humans that you can use. So if you go to the project here, there are these two. So there's a male one here, male ZPR and female ZPR. You can load these. And they're both really good models. And in addition to that, if you go to Tool, there is yet another one here that you can use. And there's Super Average Man, and of course there's Demo Soldier. But for what I'm doing, I'd probably be using either the Nick Z human here, Nick Zuccarello's, I think, human, or I would be using any one of these. So you can test what I'm doing here with these guys, and you will get similar results and maybe even better ones. Who knows? Okay, so I start out with a human being like this, and let me go ahead and load my actual project of it. By the way, before I move off of it, I checked today, and it turns out that Alexander had a few more assets, and I ended up getting them as well. So he's got this one here, which is more of a humanoid. I don't know where this guy's head went. Here it is. I'm showing it, but oh, there it is. Oh, I'm on solo, that's why. Okay, so he's got a new one that's kind of this stylistic character. And what I like about this one specifically is that if I look at the body, all these different parts are different subtools, right? And so that kind of lends itself to some cool things too, which I might use in this character. Since this is broken up by some of these muscles, I could use these muscles as subtools, as kind of pieces, as armor pieces or whatever, and repurpose them that way. He's got a good female one as well. I'll bring that up. So I picked these two up today when I went to his website. I guess he's always making new stuff, and it's always good that he is. All right, so that's kind of the thing to do here is just basically start out with a human like that and then get a result like this. So a lot of times, people just, start out with a human being, or they start out with subtools and they start painting and drawing on them. But this method I'm going to show you is kind of a method that's a derivative of another artist's work. And I'll also bring that up real quick and talk about it. I will get to using ZBrush soon. But my good friend and an amazing artist, Scott Robertson, a while back did these experiments with Modo, and which were these. So basically, he took characters and he photo bombed, I guess he called it, or photo bashed, or whatever the term was. But he took like a photo like this, and then he basically had projected them onto a character in Modo, and he let it run overnight, and that generated a whole bunch of different images. And then through those images, he would go and find ones that were good. And that's a pretty cool workflow. And I'm sure that he and other artists who've looked at this, here's another example where he basically took this kind of picture of the front of a car, and he projected it onto the human here. And so you can kind of see similar kind of things where you don't really see this picture here, but you see some sort of interesting design generated by this. Okay, so I basically took this method, which I always thought was a really, really cool way of doing things. He also did this with, you know, here's another example of it, right? And then finally, he also did these with projecting, or I forget, using some, I think it was Mesh Fusion, or I forget the exact, replicants or replication or whatever. There were these different parts that basically got added to the object. Similarly, he would let it run overnight, and then he'd come in and paint over it. So here's another example of that. So I'm basically taking that kind of idea, but I'm going a little bit further with it. And so we'll go ahead and start out with one. So I just kind of wanted to show that this was an example that was started that way. So let me see if I can just go to that one initial image. So basically, this is kind of the result I got from that. And not only did I get the paint, but I also got relief. And again, that's using one of the new capabilities of 2021.7. All right, so let's go ahead and do one of these. So just so that the quick saves take less time, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this model completely so it doesn't take up any room. I'll also go ahead and delete these two guys over here. Actually, I'll keep this one, but I might not need the female one for now. I might do another character in this season. I might do a female one as well, but for now we're just going to stick to the male one that we have. And so what I have here, I think this is the one, is I've basically created a ZTL of this character, and again, I've like I said, I've made some modifications to it. So the one that comes with the kit is this, and if you know, if you want to use it this way, that's fine. But I've actually made some modifications to it. The first modification I've made is we don't really use toes in anything, so I basically got rid of the toes. I'll go ahead and turn on the topology for this so you can see it. I've basically gotten rid of the toes and replaced it with this geometry. So I just basically took modeled the toes out and created kind of pseudo shoes for him. And also I did some different type of polygrouping because I just want to basically be able to separate things out. So if I have a boot, for example, then it would be this plus this plus this. Plus this, plus that. So now I'm basically just working with the boot. I can, of course, hide all these other parts, but basically this makes it easier for me to work on the separate parts. I re-UV'd it as well. And yeah, so basically I just kind of did some extra work. I also created another version of it, and here's the other version where it's the same character, right? But I also got rid of the details of the face, so this looks like a helmet. So I could work on something like this if I just want to do all of it in one shot. And if I don't want to do it in one shot, I actually want to have the human, I can just start with this one, like I said. And again, this has subdivision levels, so I can go from 1 to 5. 5 is more detailed. And it has all the anatomical features. And notice here that I kind of got rid of some of the anatomical features in here, like the belly button and whatnot. So I can do that easily as well. But if I do want to have a full human figure, I've also made a very simple helmet, like so, which basically will go over the guy's face, and I can subdivide this. I'll just bring up the wireframe, just a really, really simple model here, and then I can also use this to fashion the helmet as a separate piece. So let's go ahead and do that. I guess for this one, I'll just go ahead and start out with the model, and we will use the helmet. But for now, I'm going to hide the helmet and the hair. I'm going to keep maybe I'll hide the hair, but I'll keep the eyeballs for now. And then there's a couple of other things. So this is just a ZTL that I saved, so I can just load that in at any point in time and start working on it. The other two pieces here, there's one background here that basically shows me the silhouette of the guy. And I've got, is this guy's hair color. No, I just got polyframe on. Okay, turn that off. Okay, so I've got a background this way, and I've also got a background that basically is it's this way, right? So I'll talk about why these are important as well. All right, so looks like there's a bunch of different people chiming in. We've got somebody from India. Hey, awesome. I don't know what time it is there, but good to have you with us. And Nightbot is basically saying that ZBrush 2021.7 is available now for purchase and subscription. Okay, so I guess that's who is Nightbot? Is that Daisuke? I don't know. Sculptastic is what is not. Okay, so you might want to elaborate on that. I don't know what you're saying. There is a official Discord server, I guess, for ZBrush. I didn't even know about that. And also there's a live sculpt off because there is a the ZBrush Summit is coming up. So if you guys want to compete, I've done a couple of them and they're fun. You can always get on that. Okay. So all right, we got somebody from the UK. Hey, Maker JP. So we've got people from all over the world. That's great. All right, so the first thing I want to do is just like a few quick things here. I kind of feel like I've talked for looks like 20 minutes, and I'm itching to start using ZBrush, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to get rid of that belly button. I'm going to go down to the subdivision level where I can see it, so it's not visible at 2. Let's see, is it visible at 3? It is, and just start kind of using the smooth brush to just get rid of it. Let's go all the way up to 5 now. There it is, and now it's not there because we don't really need the belly button for now. And here is the character. Let's go ahead and choose kind of a light color. And when I first start out, I also like to use, I'll switch materials later on, but when I first start out, I like to use the Skin Shade 4 material because that kind of shows things off a little bit better. All right, and another thing I might want to do is maybe dim this light just a tad, like so. All right, that's too much. Light in the back? Nope, it's in the front. So what is going on? Oh, it's got a couple other lights on. Let me turn these lights off. All right, so we just have that main light right here, and let's pump up that intensity to maybe about there where we have a little bit of relief. Okay. All right, so I think that's still a little bit too much, maybe a little bit less. I think I'm going to use this top slider to kind of tweak it down to maybe about not that much, or just type it in 0.9. All right, that's good. All right, and then I'm going to make this a little bit darker. All right, and so now we have this. Now the other thing that I do is, and I'll go ahead and bring this over here. So this is Pure Ref, and I think I might need to make this smaller so it fits into the screen like so. And here we go. All right, so this is Pure Ref, and I've just got these images. Some of them are mine, so like these spheres here are my work that I've done, and you can see them in the abstract section of my website. But then there are just other images, just some graphic design images, images of like, let's say, a really cool record player, or like the kind of the inside the hilt of a katana. Just some interesting things that I've found over the years, and I just call them photo bash elements, and I just kind of have collected them. So I'm going to go ahead and load all of these as a texture. So under texture, you can just go to import, and I'm just going to go ahead and go into that folder that has all those images and just load them all in as textures. So that might take a little bit of time, so I'll just kind of let that go. And as you can see here, all of those are going to be added in my texture section. All right, so I guess maybe there's a couple that can't be read, which is fine. I think that some of them are WebP files, which I don't think ZBrush reads. Okay, so we got somebody from the USA, Sculptastic. You are from the USA, but you are in the UK. Oh no, where are you? Did you say where you're from? No, you didn't. Okay. Are you in the USA watching? All right. And I've... all right. So Maker JP's finished a Space Girl suit. Awesome. Just send it to me. Let me see what you're working on, or send me a link to it. Yes, Comic Legend. I will be creating a hard surface armor for this character for sure. And then, okay, so at comics legend, yes, I don't know what that means. Okay, here starting from this base. Okay, all right, so cool. So here we go. Now, the hardest part is not, I can just start sculpting on here, and I've seen other artists do that where just they basically go, okay, well, I'm going to turn symmetry on here. And I'm going to bring up my Damien standard brush, and then I'm going to start just sculpting on this guy and whatever. So, I mean, this is good, but it basically will give you a starting point, and you will only be working on that design. What I want to do here is I want to come up with maybe 20, 30 designs, and then I can choose from that what I think is cool. All right, so first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and go to that texture menu, and now you can see all those textures that I showed you in PureRef have been loaded into here. And I can pick one. I'll just pick a really simple one. I'll pick one of mine. Let's say I'll pick this one right here. Okay, so, and I should also be on the paintbrush, by the way. So I'm just using the paintbrush, so B, P, and whatever, A, BPA. And now I've got the paintbrush, and notice that here, if I start painting on the model, I'm actually painting that object, but that's really not what I want to do. I actually want to use this to generate shapes for me, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my stroke from dots to drag rectangle. Let's try that first. And I'm just going to go ahead and do something like this. Okay, so here we go. I'm just basically dragging that image and onto the model, right? And just basically like a kaleidoscope or something like that. I'm just looking for some sort of interesting shape. And, I just play around with one picture like this, and this isn't really giving me anything that I want, so I switch to something else. So I'm going to switch to this one right here, which is basically the top of a turntable. Now, if I don't like this, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the beginning, right here. And I think this was, yeah, where I started. And also another thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and store a morph target. So I'm just going to go to morph target down here. So we just have a morph target of this. And if I wanted to, and sometimes I do that, I can go ahead and add a layer too, so I can start recording a layer as well. I'm not going to do that in this case because I think we're good for that. Okay, and so now I can just go ahead and start drawing that record player kind of piece onto the model. Again, all I'm doing is just looking for interesting kind of shapes, right? And this is kind of a really mellow process. You can just put some music on and just continue to do this until you find some shape or a design language that looks interesting. So of course, and you will have times like right now where I'm basically not seeing anything and this is not really working. So I'm going to go to something simpler. You can choose all sorts of shapes. Like you can choose this motorcycle picture. So this is what I'm looking at right here. And notice that there's a Harley logo on it. It doesn't really matter because you're really at the end not going to recognize that picture, and very little of that picture is going to very little of that picture is going to show up. So here we go. This is kind of giving me some better results. So I'm getting something interesting over here that I'd like, and then I'm just going to continue to do this again and again and again, rotate it, move it around. Okay, and this is looking a lot more interesting. So it's kind of like the things that Scott's model was doing. And so here I'm going to switch. At this point, maybe I'm going to try a different material. Let's go to basic material 2. That way I'll get a little bit of a specular. But now I have to bump up the intensity of my light a bit. Okay, so now I'm getting a little bit more interesting light happening here. That's a bit maybe too much. Let's go to 1. That's good. I think maybe let's go to basic material 1. So yeah, so there it is. And so now I'm getting some more interesting shapes. I'm getting some designs that are looking pretty cool to me. And I can just go and notice here that it projects it to the back. I can do backface masking if I don't want that to happen. And at some point I go, okay, well, this area here looks interesting, so I'll just go ahead and mask that area off. So I don't really want to update that area right here. I'm going to keep whatever's here. I kind of like this bit right here as well. And I'm going to mask this. I kind of like this wrist area over here. I'm going to mask that. I kind of like what's happening here with these fingers. I'm going to mask that area. So now I'm not really going to be touching that area right there. But I'm going to be working on the rest of it. And I don't really care on what's happening on his face at all, because, I mean, unless this is going to be like some sort of a cyborg face, in which case it'll be fine. But I like what's going on here, but I don't like that these are down here. So I'm going to just go ahead and try and generate another one of these so that I get those to be kind of on the knees. And let's see if I can maybe start it down here and rotate it to get that shape to kind of come over to where the knees are. So you can see here that there's just a very kind of a lot of different variations. The difference between what Scott was doing and what I'm doing here is that I'm actually I have control over what I am doing. I'm not letting the computer randomly assign these textures to the robot. I'm actually physically taking some action on it. Now, a lot of these are symmetric and they don't have to be. So I can always go in ahead and turn symmetry off. So right now I've got symmetry on X. I can always turn that off if I want things to be asymmetrical. And now I'm just basically doing this on one side. But I'm going to stay symmetrical for a while, until I get some basic shapes. Okay. So now I'm going to go to another shape. This is the bottom of a tennis shoe that I have. Okay, so here I'm getting some other interesting effects, right? I kind of like that white type of, that separation over here. But let's see if that does anything cool in the arm area. Right, and so again, you can resize that, make it bigger, smaller, and you get all sorts of interesting things going on. Another thing you can also do is, instead of using stroke, you can use drag dot. And then that way you can basically just change your brush size to whatever you want, and then move it around this way, and just kind of just have one example. I'm sorry that welcome wheel keeps popping up. I'm trying a new method of working, so it's part of it. I kind of like the drag dot better, because that just basically gives me more control. So here, this is again the bottom of a tennis shoe, but it doesn't really look like the bottom of a tennis shoe once I'm done with it, because it's just basically placing it there. And also, like, if I don't want that white border, I can always play around with the focal shift and get more of kind of it being focused on the center. I think even more so than that. Wow, okay, let's just go to that. And so now I'm getting less of the, I'm getting less of the white, but I guess the shoe is wide, so it's not working that way that well. But I can always, I can always edit this image very quickly too, if I just don't want any of the white and I just want the black kind of pattern to show up. So, again, I'll just continue to pick different pictures here. There's one that I really like a lot. And let's see if I can find it, that I kind of is a go-to for me. And again, some of these I use all the time. Some of these I use some of the time. So this is a method that I've worked on for a long time. But with the new version of ZBrush, it's added some new capabilities that make this even cooler. Right? So, before I do that, let me also talk about something else. So the other thing also is these pictures, like that helicopter was orange, but if I don't like orange, right? So what I can do here is go into Polypaint, and I can go to, where is it? Adjust colors, and I've got that right here on my UI, right? So if I go to adjust colors, if I don't like this to be orange, I can always kind of shift that hue, like maybe green, maybe red, maybe blue, right? And even with that, I'm kind of getting interesting results. And I can always mess around with this too, like change the intensity of it as well. So now I'm getting different ideas, and I can also change the contrast, less contrast, more contrast, and just kind of play around with this as well. So, I've got a lot of leverage as to what I can do with these designs. So here, what I'm going to do is, again, go back to the start. And usually what I do is, once I'm happy with something, I just basically duplicate the object and start over. Now this time I'm going to go to the start. I'm going to actually hold Control and click on where that start is. So that tells me where the start is, so I don't have to dig around for it. And also it's useful for something else, which is coming up. All right, let's see. I've got quite a few people saying stuff here. All right, link to Space Girl. All right, so any creator will you also be incorporated? Yes, I will be. Okay, and this is okay. Cool, awesome, Burger Lee. That's great. Yeah, so definitely, this is I mean, especially nowadays where skins are a big deal of a game, or when you're doing iterations on something. If a director or wants to see more versions of something, this is a great way to actually go ahead and create like 20-30 different concepts, and then he can choose what you want. And the good news is you don't really have to develop them further. You can just kind of do this workflow and get it to a certain point, and then after that, if he likes it, then you can develop the character further. And this is a lot better than spending a lot of time developing the character and getting to have to do it all over again. And since time is of essence, this will definitely save you a lot of time when you're doing concepts. Okay, so here I'm just basically taking this X-ray of a helmet right here, and I'm just using that to find shapes. And I like this one a lot. It gives me a lot of there's some really cool angles in this. And one thing I should mention is, like, for example, if I don't want it to say optic over here, again, this is polypaint, right? So I can just go in here, turn that texture off, grab the color of the background. So I'm just basically dragging from this color picker to here, and just erase that, right? So now I've got everything else, but I don't have that word optic on there. So I can always augment what I'm working on with just polypainting on it as well. All right, so let's choose another thing. Here's a mouse, like picture of a mouse, right? So I can just move this around, and you can see here, you can very quickly get some really, really compelling shapes. And again, I don't know any other software you can do this kind of stuff in. I mean, maybe you can do this in 2D in Photoshop, but you can't turn it around and go at it from a different angle. I mean, this is a full-on 3D shape. Right, so here I'm just playing. I have not yet committed to anything. I'm just playing with different options, and a lot of what you do here is based on the pictures that you choose, and also how developed your design sense is. So you can definitely get different types of results if you have a different design sense. And these don't have to be, I mean, this doesn't have to be a humanoid character. It could be a creature. It could be a vehicle. I mean, I use the same method for a lot of different things. All right, so I kind of like that, but let me kind of do this. All right, so all this is looking good. Now, if I like what's here, I can always drop down my RGB intensity. So I'm going to drop it down to maybe about 50. So half of what's there stays, and then whatever I choose next will be augmented onto it. So let's choose another one that's an interesting one. This one was pretty interesting. I don't know what it is, but it's some sort of texture. And again, I just have gathered these over the years. Just if I see something interesting, I always add it to my reference set. So I'm just going to grow this out this way. I don't know if that's working. I think this is more of kind of a general big shapes thing. Here we go. So there we go. I can kind of still see what's underneath, but I'm getting some interesting results from this as well. Okay. And I'm just continuing to do this type of work here. This is all really empty. And again, you don't want it to be too busy, but you just want to find some. Here we go. That was interesting. Let's just try to do that again. So here we go. I'm getting something really cool happening with this. And you kind of want to keep the mirror effect to a minimum. And of course, you can always go back in and erase it. Funny enough, this is adding nipples to the guy, which, is not something I do want. But again, I just basically, maybe leave it there. It's kind of a cool effect right here. And let's pick, so I just basically jump around with these images and play around until, I spend a good half an hour. Here's a picture of the space shuttle bricks. That's always a good one. Add some interesting effects with the text and everything. So I'm just kind of going to draw that out. And again, here I'm just basically layering these one on top of each other. And if I want to, if I'm on a time crunch and I can't play this much, what I usually do is I go and turn layers on, and I add each one of these as its own layer, right? So that way, if I'm pressed for time and there was something that I liked earlier, I can just always go back to that layer and turn it on. All right, so this is kind of giving me some interesting looks right here. And again, this is just a photo of the tiles of the space shuttle that I took at the Museum of Science. So there we go. You can see here that you're getting a very interesting shape, and you can just fill a whole page of these, like one after another, and be creating kind of a character sheet with all these things. Here's a picture of a knife that was online, and I'm just going to use that for now. And I'm just going to bump up the intensity again. Again, I'm not really caring about what's there before. I'm kind of hoping, and you get a lot of interesting results over time. So here's kind of an interesting type of look right here. And I could spend, a good hour and a half doing this and get maybe 15, 20, 30 different designs. And at any point in time, like if I like something again, I either can mask it out and continue, or here, look at that. Like this part right here is working really well. So I'm going to try and do that, but have those holes be smaller. There we go. All right, so I'm not going to change that. I think I'm going to incorporate that design and then just continue to do this kind of stuff here. Okay, so the interesting thing is that since it's the same picture, it kind of creates a design language of its own. So it has different parts. And nobody looking at this is going to go, oh yeah, that's that knife. Unless, there's a text that says it or whatever. Nobody's going to know. That's fine. And you can do this with other people's art. You can do this with whatever, just as long as if it is showing up, or if it is characteristics of what they're doing. Always say who they are in your credits, and yeah. So all right, so there's that, and I like this part still, but I'm not, I really like what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and mask that. I'm going to go ahead and mask this area right here. Right, and let's see what's going on in the back. I have no idea what's going on in the back. This looks good. Just mask that off. And again, I'm not being too precious. I'm just basically quickly masking something up. This doesn't look that good, but that's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and pick a different picture. Let's pick these katana hilts. Let's see if that gives me anything interesting. Right, so if I was just doing some other type of character, the text will add some interesting effects. Maybe not this one. What other ones should I use? There's one that I really like. Oh, here we go. This one right here. This one is really, really good. Okay. All right, cool. I will definitely check that out, the link that you sent. Very good. All right, so with this one right here, I like this one a lot because, again, it's just a picture of a sculpture on a roof, right? But it's got these really interesting design elements that come across really well. And you can see here that that's kind of really working over here. So I'm just going to mask these lines off because I think they are working really well. And then let's see if I can do a few more here. And again, it's the same design language because it's the same picture. And let's do something like this. Nope. And again, I can come at it from different angles. I don't have to be doing it right off the beginning of it. And just try different looks here to get something that I like. Okay, and continue on. And again, I'm not really wrecking anything down here because I've got that mask. Let's see if I can get some interesting boot action going. Okay, that's looking good. Now, if I do anything in the back, it's going to project it to the front. So whatever I want to keep, I will mask off. Again, I'm not really caring about the face. I'm just going to go ahead and look at the arm here and do this. And yeah, you know, I'm getting kind of, I like this little detail here. I'm going to keep that. Let's see, it works all the way to the back, so that's always good. So I'll just mask that off, and I think I'm going to continue with what I'm working on. I finally found what I like. A good question. Maker's asking if I tried this with alphas. Absolutely. So sometimes I can just go ahead and bring up an alpha, and I'll just go ahead and bring up some of mine here. Alphas. Or I'll just use some of these Pixologic ones. They'll work. Let me make this into 2 so we have a little bit more room. And yeah, so if I can, you know, when I use something like this, I can always drop an alpha on here too, and then I get something even more different, right? So I get kind of it just kind of chopped up like this, and that creates kind of a newer, different effect. And if I, you know, if this alpha doesn't work, I can pick a different one. Let's say I want something more octagonal. Let's see, yeah, how about this one right here? Here's an interesting one. So this alpha will add its own kind of flavor to what I'm doing, right? So I also am getting kind of a hexagon border or shape as well. So here, let's kind of do something like, and it's really kind of, you know, hypnotic almost when you're doing these, because you're getting some really interesting patterns showing up. All right, so there's that. Maybe a little bit of this. All right, and then how about like that? All right, and I'm going to turn the alpha off for now, and let's go and jump to another one. Here's one which is an IBM brochure. Right, so, and this is just a kind of a company brochure on something from an old long time ago that I found on, I think it was on some sort of graphic design page, and I can, you know, see now this is adding a whole new other kind of effect to it. And if I don't like the red, I can always go in and change the color. But I'm not going to choose that one. You know, here's a motorcycle. Motorcycles are really great for this because they have parts, like if you look at this picture of the motorcycle, there are parts that are kind of mechanical, and then there are parts that are really clean. Cars don't work as well, but motorcycles work really, really well. So here we go. Look at that. Like you're getting all these little greebly things in here. It just looks really, really awesome. You know, like if I just do this, the only problem with motorcycles is that the wheels are round, and you have to go in and kind of remove them either in the photo or whatever. So now you're getting the picture itself, and also in addition to the picture, when it crosses over the mirror, you're getting a whole other effect. So you can see here I've got all these different effects happening until I find something that's interesting. So here we go. I've got something really cool going on over here, in addition to what I had before. So I'm going to go ahead and see, is there anything I want to save of this? No, I think I'm just going to continue on. Right, so there's that. So you can always go and find, like, you know, side pictures of motorcycles. There's a ton of them online. Ducatis, whatnot. Here's another one that's interesting. I mean, here's something that you wouldn't really think about. Here's just an interesting piece of text. And if you move this around, you get some really, really interesting kinds of patterns. And, you know, I mean, it's just text, but you don't really see the text. You just see different things going on here. And then you just kind of play around until you get something that looks somewhat interesting. And what's funny is if I do this on my own, I'm usually, and here's a picture of a car that this works. So again, I'm just trying to get different shapes, and you can always kind of isolate it too. So now I want to get some interesting thing going on in the pecs. So I'm going to focus in this one area. I'm not going to focus on the whole model. And see if I can get something interesting with this one pattern that will work in this one area. Maybe not with that part. Let's see what else we have here. Here's a picture of a Gundam statue in Tokyo that I took. Here's another car. Let's see what this gives us. This is giving us some interesting results as well. So I'm just going to continue to do this. Let's see. This one always gives me good stuff. Here we go. And like what I'm getting over here is kind of really cool. And I'll just kind of continue to do this until I get something interesting going on in the pectoral area. So get a cool angle going. Right, and you can always, it's always good to jump around until you find some interesting things. And again, not all of these are different types of patterns. So let me go to, let's try a camo pattern. I think I should have some in here. I think I reached the limit. There are some that did not load. Oh yeah, here we go. Here, I'll use this one. I really like this one, which is kind of a Swedish airplane camo, and it gives me a lot of really cool shapes. So probably the Marvel people, if they're watching this, are going to go, all right, well, now we know what kind of costumes to give our superheroes. We can design like 100 costumes in a day. Shouldn't just limit it to Marvel. DC people could be watching as well. I don't know. All right, and I think I'm looking for a specific one that, here we go. Is it this one? No. It's kind of similar to that one. It's kind of a camo pattern, but it's really well done. And it works really well. Here we go. I'll do this one. This one gives me good results too. Do this, and I'm not going to focus on the head, and I'm going to remove some of this masking that I have, because it's, I think I like the holes, but I don't know if I like the rest of it. And then with this one, I like this part, but maybe not over here. So I'm going to erase this part of the mask. And then let's start adding these. Okay, so this is kind of looking cool. Here we go. Bam. That's looking really good there. Mask it out. I'm going to keep that part. And then let's start working on here. And on like this, I'm going to mask that out. And then continue working on this part right here. So it looks like these are creating some interesting cascading pieces. I'm just going to go ahead and continue this down. As much as I can and capitalize from it. So that's good over here. So I'm just basically keeping the things that I think are working, and might as well add one of these to the arm here. All right, let's see. No questions yet. It's always okay. I think I'm inadvertently, so I like this part right here, but I'm gonna remove the mask part here. Let's see if this looks good. I think this stuff will look good on the side, like that. And let's see. All right, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and erase the mask down here a little bit and see if I can get this again. There we go. All right, that's looking good. All right, let's see if I can find something else here that's good for the crotch area. Here's this piece of this bike. See if I can have this, erase this area right here, and let's see if I can add that as an element this way. So, it's kind of a nice 20 minutes or so. That works over there. Let's see if I can get it to work over here as well. It's looking good, but it removed this. I want to keep this area right here. Okay, so I'm just basically slowly adding more and more to my pattern here until I get something that I like. This looks good, kind of unique. I haven't seen this kind of design, so I'm going to go ahead and keep it and just continue on this way. That looks good right here. I'm going to keep that. Right, so let's see if I can come up with something that'll work in this area. It's like playing with a kaleidoscope when you were a kid. Reminds me of that a lot. Okay, so there's that. Speaking of kaleidoscope, so the back is, oh, look at that. That kind of came out good. That's just happy accident. I didn't even intend for, oops. I didn't even intend for this back part. Let's just pick the paintbrush here. I didn't intend for this back part to happen, but it works too. So I'm just going to keep that. This is looking good. I'm keeping that. So, and this is looking not bad either. So I'm just keeping all these parts over here. So the other thing I wanted to talk about in here, so what I'm going to do is just at this point, I like this. I'm just going to duplicate it. All right, so I've got a duplicate of it, and then on this duplicate, I'm just going to go ahead and fill it with nothing, just to talk about this other thing. So here we go. Let's unmask it, and let's just fill it with nothing. All right, and the other thing you can also do is let's go ahead and pick another texture, something that will work good. Maybe this one right here. Right, and for this, what I'm going to do is do the symmetry, but I'm going to do it around Z, and I'm going to turn radial on. So now I've got a radial version of this, and then I can just kind of move this, and it creates kind of a radial image. And as I get bigger and bigger, it starts overlapping each other, right? And I don't want it to do that, so I'm just going to continue to do this. And the radial count, I can bump it down to maybe, let's see, let's go down to 3. And that basically creates, you know, a whole other type of look too. So this is not symmetrical, and it's creating an interesting kind of look as well. So, you know, just so many different ways of using this technique and getting interesting results. And I'm really curious to see some of the things you guys are going to do with it as well. Once you start trying it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So now I got this kind of happening from the radial perspective, and since these are UV'd, since this character is UV'd, I can always kind of grab this texture and then grab the other ones and go into Photoshop and do work with them too. Or even in here, I can overlap these on top of each other to get different results. Right, so I'm just going to delete this one. I just basically wanted to whoa, what did I do? Did I delete everything? Of course I did. All right, so we have to start over. Not a big deal. I'll just go ahead and load the ZTL. And we can just do it over from the start. The good news is, yeah, instead of delete the object, I inadvertently clicked on delete all, which is unfortunate. Let's see, what's this? Actually, let me load this in first, and it's so amazing because like something like this, you'd be like, oh man, I lost days of work, but I didn't. It's a few minutes of playing around, so I can always go in and do it over again. So let's see, this is here, and it's this one right here. All right, so this is just going to load kind of the blank version of it right here, and then we can go ahead and start over. All right, and autosave is happening. I'm just going to, you know, autosave could have happened a little bit earlier. We could have probably saved that image, but it's fine. I'm not worried because I can again generate a ton of them in almost no time. All right, so I'm picking the humanoid here. Let's hide the helmet. Let's hide the hair. And let's hide this guy on top. All right, so and let's go up in subdivision levels. Oh, by the way, you want to be in upper subdivision levels for this stuff to work, because if you're in lower subdivision levels, it's not going to work as well. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it a lot quicker. Let's see. Let's pick the ones that we liked. Oops. Let's turn symmetry back on. Okay, let's pick the ones that we liked. Here's one like so. We're trying to get something else that is compelling. So again, I'm just using that mouse and trying to get something cool. Now, I am going to turn this helmet on just because I don't want to see the guy's face. Just want to kind of imagine it with helmet action. All right, so just kind of do that. All right, let's pick a different shape. Is it this one? No. This one always produces interesting things. It's got hexagons on it, so I'm going to try and use that. Right, continue to do this, like so. Right, so now I'm getting a whole other type of thing. I'll keep some of those elements. I'm going to choose a different shape. This one's kind of cool. So I'm going to try and do this in the next 10-15 minutes, get something compelling from it, so I can get on to the next part of the demo. But I should be able to. I mean, it's really easy to do that. I don't know why I'm not finding that one image that I want. Let's go back to this. It's a good one. It creates some really interesting results. Right. And again, it's always kind of harder to do these things live than it is when you're just hanging out and playing. So here's this one image. Looks good. Here we go. Here's an engine. It's always good to use these things because you get like interesting greebles. So I'm just going to do that first and just get as many kind of greeble-y areas as I can, and then I'll just overlay them with the rest of the stuff. So let's say it's going to be all greeble-y looking things like that. And this actually works really good. This is just a kind of an inside part of a Oculus helmet. So this one creates some really interesting results. Start it over here. And again, basically wherever you're clicking is the center of your brush, and then you're just moving out from there. The problem with this one is that the flat side creates good results, but the round side does not. So I have to turn it around. Here we go. Look at that. Look at how cool this is over here. And so the reason why that dialog is popping up is because I'm using the Wacom 3D mouse, and I've assigned the button, the extra button, to that. Look at this. Look at how cool that is, right? And here we go. All right. And I'm really kind of liking what I'm getting in the front. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and turn back face mask on. And that's, I think, under brush and masking. So brush. And where are you? Auto mask, brush and auto mask. Yep, auto masking. And it's this one right here, right? So now I'm basically going to be working on the back, but not the front. So whatever I did in the front is going to stay there. So I'm getting this here. The curvy part actually gives me some interesting results as well. And just keep playing. I'll go to the side. And just start it over here so I can get rid of that white part. Just, you know. So now I've got all this interesting stuff happening. But I'm not really messing with the back part of it, per se. Okay, and then there's this. See what I can get over here. and what I can get over here. Right, so I don't want that white part. So one thing I might do is go and maybe re-edit these pieces so they don't have such a white border around them as they do here. All right, so that looks good. This is kind of interesting over here. Maybe not that many of them, but let's try and do this over here. All right, so what's happening is that the white part is kind of infringing on this area, so I'm just going to mask it off. And now as I go up further, it's not going to mess with that part, although it is messing with the feet. So I'm going to try and keep it to maybe something like, let's flip it around. Let's start from here. Right? I mean, I know I'm doing this a lot, but it's easier than drawing something and erasing it and drawing something else and erasing it. All right, so here we go. There's that. There's that. Okay, so I think I'm pretty good with this picture. We got a lot out of it. So now I'm going to switch to something else. And I'm going to use this one, which is basically a computer chassis. And that created that. So now I'm going to basically put my RGB intensity down to maybe 30. So I'm adding on top of this, but I'm not, ruining what's underneath. I'm keeping some of what's there. And let's pick another picture. I really like these camo pictures because they kind of give me definitions of certain areas. So if I want to create kind of this gator area over here, I can do that with this. And I'm just basically looking for more definition of shapes to work with. And what's also really cool is that if I start from scratch, which again, I'm not really afraid to do. So here I'm going to turn the texture off and just erase everything. And you guys are like, man, it's going to take forever to do this, but I'm not. And also I've got kind of some finished ones that that I have as well that I can just jump to if we have to get to it. But I'm going to go ahead and do another thing that's kind of interesting here is I'm going to pick something that's more kind of a camo pattern. I'll pick this one. And let's see, there's some people, somebody's asking what's a greeble. All right, so Neil, Viola, we will see how that happens very, very soon. Okay. So, so today is basically just kind of playing. We're just kind of doing this kind of thing first, and then we'll develop this fully into a kind of fully fleshed out character. So here I'm just doing this, and what's nice about this also is, and what I wanted to show, and the reason why I'm doing it is this other thing that I use as well. I was trying to answer what a greeble is. So a greeble is if you look at old sci-fi movies. And let me grab a swig of tea here. If you look at old sci-fi movies, what they used to do is they basically used to buy pre-made plastic model kits and then just use the pieces and glue them onto the spaceships or whatever. And then they basically created that look. And this is like the first Star Wars, they used that technology. So if you look at the Death Star and the Millennium Falcon and everything like that, it's just basically made of actual plastic model kits. And I think if you look on the internet, they actually say which kits they are too. So if they're still available, you can still buy them and use them to make your own Millennium Falcon. So basically there's a base of it, and then there's all these little pieces that are called greebles that go on top. All right, so the reason why I'm doing this is I'm basically using this to define kind of some areas where I want the other things to go. So here we go. There's that, and there's that. Oops. I don't know what I did, but let's just go. Whatever it is, it'll show up. Okay. And again, the reason this thing keeps coming up is because I accidentally am clicking that button. This is a workflow that I'm trying out. So far, it's working okay, but every once in a while, I get that annoying pop-up. So this is good. And the reason why I did this is because now I want to filter this out or mask this out based on color, right? So when I go to that adjust colors, what I can do is I can just basically drag it on to here and basically mask a certain color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask these colors. So all these colors here are masked. And so now when I go ahead and start drawing stuff, it's not messing with that one area, right? So now that I've got that area defined, I can just go in and pick another image. So I mean, I could move on from this, but I'm basically showing you guys all the tricks that I use just because I think it's useful and I think it will help you with your work. I think this is like the front of a train that I'm using. So here we go, right? So I'm not touching those areas that are that other color, but I'm painting in the areas that are not that color, right? So now I've got this, and I can just invert the mask. And now I can pick something else, like something with a yellow. And now I am just filling in that other area with this other pattern, right? So this is another way that I kind of go through my image and I create kind of islands where I have these different types of pieces that are interacting in a certain way. Do I have a Pinterest with these images? I don't. Should I have one? I don't know. If you want to contact me, let me know like how that could be useful. I'd be very eager to listen and learn. Okay, so now I'm going to flip the mask again. So again, the yellow parts are masked, and I'm going to pick something else like this motorcycle. And again, I'm basically looking for interesting patterns that come up. You know, and again, I'm getting like, you know, hundreds of them in just this one little session. And again, at any point in time, I can always, you know, snapshot these and be creating a library of all of these, and then pick one that I like. And I can also be snapshotting the actual model itself by duplicating it, and then I could have another, again, 20, 30 of these, and I can spend some time with the art director going over what's working and what's not working, and just kind of move forward that way. All right, so I'm just going to mask the other area now. Do this, right? So now I'm basically getting more kind of defined shapes. All right, so I like this, but I don't really like that yellow. So I'm just going to go to adjust colors and just shift that hue to something different. Or I can just leave it as that and just desaturate it. Where's the saturation? Here it is. So I just want to desaturate it. I like the shape. I just don't want it to have a color. Like so. Okay, that's good. And then let me just play around with the contrast. It's a little bit too contrasty. I don't know what's going on with those colors, so let's just go ahead and take that kind of RGB intensity up. So now basically just have kind of a black and whitish looking image. So I can just play around with this until I get it to something more along the lines of what I want. So there's that. Drop that saturation a bit. Is it masked? It is still masked, isn't it? So I'm going to turn this on or off. And yeah, it's just working on those areas because it's masked. So let me cancel this out, unmask it, and just go back in here again. Adjust colors. And now it should be the whole thing. Nope. Still is working on that one area. Oh no, it is working on the whole thing. So here I'm just basically reducing the contrast a bit, maybe not that much, and then changing the hue to something more along the lines of what I want, and the intensity maybe down a bit to a lighter color. All right, so that's good. So this is okay, and let's say I like this. I don't know if I'm going to use this one or not. I might just play around and create some more of these later. I just don't want to do it now because I've been doing quite a few of them. And I've had some interesting areas where I found some things that I liked. So I guess let me do a little bit more. So now I'm just going over what's there. Let me reduce this to about 60. Let me see if I can find some more interesting. Here's a kind of an interesting one too. I get a lot of good results from this image. Like so. Here's the back of a car. So see, I'm getting greeble-y stuff over here. And then I can just kind of do this. It's a Lamborghini, the back of a Lamborghini. So You can see this kind of triangle image is kind of adding an interesting look to here. Maybe more on the side, like that, and like so. Oh wow, look at that. Yeah, I'll be working with this stuff, and like every once in a while I get a result that's just like out of this world cool. Let's try this one. I don't know why I'm not giving up on this. I think I can get something good in the next few minutes. I'll definitely, what time is it? Okay, we still have a lot of time. And I definitely will show you kind of the next stages to this, and it's just as cool. What's coming up is just as cool. This is kind of a neat kind of driver looking look. And at some point, here we go. Let's try and see what else. You can do organic stuff too. Like this is somebody who made text with ZBrush, made a kind of a 3D font. But I'm going to go ahead and see if I can import that one image that I've been trying to use that somehow did not load. It's one I use quite a bit, so I'm pretty familiar with it, and I get some really interesting results with it as well. All right, is it this one? Let me see here. I'm going to continue on because there's one exactly like it that's not as good. Let's see if it's that one. And remember, when you load in an alpha, you always have to go to it. Nope, it's not it. God damn it. Pardon my French. All right, let's find something similar to it. I think this is close to it, but it's not it. That's not it either. Here we go. 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 All right, it's this image right here, and I get some really good stuff with this one. Here we go. Already I'm getting them. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and clear this and start over and just use this one image. That was, where was it? No, I lost it again. Where are you? It's this one. All right, so now I'm just going to start with this. I'm going to bump up the intensity to 100. And you can see here I'm getting already like some really amazing stuff right off the bat. Still have back face mask on? I do. So again, just rotate this, make it bigger until you get, all right, so some good cut lines over there. That's working for me, and do more of it over here. And again, I can use that masking trick that I showed earlier if I want to get more of this. Okay, that's what's happening. This is not at 100. Figured as much. Here we go. So, and as you go bigger on this, you can get all sorts of really cool stuff right there. That's cool. And right there, that's cool. I think we're going to get it. We're just going to get it with this one image. Maybe some accents, but this is looking pretty satisfactory right now. Okay, so Comic Legend is asking where I'm saving all these variations. I didn't this time because I'm just basically, doing this live. But if I was working and I want, if I like this, like let's say I really like this one that I just did, I just go down here and click on duplicate, and that creates a duplicate of it. And now I'm working on this next one, right? And if I ever want to go back to that previous one, here it is, right? So I can always jump back to it. So I just basically duplicate the model. Another thing that I also do is, if it's getting too, I mean, I've got memory in my computer, and ZBrush is pretty forgiving. You can have a bunch of these loaded in, but if you're getting to a point where you can't anymore, you can always be storing these in layers as well. So down here under layers, you can always be recording and adding a new layer for each one of these. All right, so this is looking okay so far. Let me do something with the abdomen here. I like this part over here, so I'm not going to mess with that. And I'm trying to get a cool abdomen result, and that's looking good right there. And then let's do something with the arms. That's looking good. And that's looking good. So, okay, so this is kind of along the lines of what I want. like so. All right, and then, you know, I can always go in and paint as well. So I can go in and say, okay, well, I kind of like what's going on here, but I kind of would like this color to be over here. So at this point, I just go back to dots, I turn this off, I grab that color, and I just go in here. Let's also grab a square alpha and just extend that out. So now I'm basically just painting myself, and I think, okay, well, this would look cool if it just went all the way down to this area right here, right? So now I'm basically just helping it along with some personal kind of choices. I like that line, but maybe I want this to go all the way up to it, like that, okay? So now I'm kind of, you can just go in and do these augmentations and add some stuff. If you want to add some greebles of your own, you can just go in here and go back to drag rectangle and pick an alpha like this one right here, and start adding some other elements. So let's say you want kind of a darker color. You want, like, let's say something over here. Right, so now I'm just basically adding some kind of points to this. And if you want them all to be the same shape, you can always, instead of using this, you can use the drag dot, which literally will basically put these down exactly in the same size in the areas that you want them. I think that's too many. I don't know if I like that one there. So let's say you want to add one of these here, right? So all you're doing is just basically going and adding to that design. And this is something that I can always ask, you know, an art director or somebody, hey, you know, what do you think of this? You know, what do you think of this design? Do you want me to continue on with this, or do you want me to do something new? And they might say, well, we like this part, we don't like that part. You can always re-edit these, or you can always start fresh. But you could come up with a lot of these in a very, very short period of time. Yeah, so now let's say I pick a different shape. Like, let's say I'm going to add some square shapes as well. Like, let's say over... and by the way, these the corners aren't showing up because I've got my focal shift. If I drop that down, I just get a perfect square, and I can drop it anywhere. Let's say I want to drop a couple of squares there. And maybe, let's see. So here I'm basically just, again, painting. But I'm using an alpha, and I can make these as small and big, or as big as possible, and just kind of augment these areas. I guess on this model, I didn't get rid of the belly button, so I'll do that now. Right here. So let me go back up to the high subdivision level and clear that out. And so, you know, I can always kind of augment it with these kinds of things. Or, I mean, you can augment it with like really interesting shaped alphas. So here I'm just going to go in and go out to my alphas, and let's go to tech alphas. I got quite a few. I just started organizing these finally. I'm not where I like to be, but I'm doing okay. And there are all these different alphas that are cool. I just pick something like this, for example, and go ahead and reverse it, invert it. So inverse that, and then say that's kind of a cool element. Maybe use drag dot with it. Cool element to add. Oh, I had it the way I wanted it. Inverse it back. And let's say I want to create something like this right here. So there's that. Go around. The back of this is looking pretty interesting. So all of this is good. And let's say I'm happy with what I got. Okay, so what time is it? We're good. Let's say I'm kind of happy with what I got here. I want to play a little bit more here. So I'm just going to turn this alpha off. And I'm going to go ahead and use this one image. I'm going to drop my RGB intensity and start playing around with, you know, creating maybe some other overlays to this. And again, you got to be really careful with the mirroring, so it's not kind of fighting your model, that it's helping it, not detracting from it. Okay, so I'm basically just adding some more patterns here that I like. It's diluting the image a bit, but it's okay. Right? And again, if I added that to a layer, I could always erase that layer, but I think what I'm doing here is good enough. And let me pick one more here. This one's kind of cool. It's just like the light of a car. Let's see what we get here. I'm going to increase the intensity a bit. And it's kind of creating an interesting look, right? But I don't really want to mess with this area, so I'm going to mask it real quick. And I don't really want to mess with this area. I'm going to mask that as well. I don't know. Maybe I won't use this wheel. All right. That's looking okay. Like maybe, no. Maybe not as big. This direction. And the thing is, you don't have to spend too long to know if something is going to work or not. This, I think, will work like that. Maybe a little bit more in. Yep, this is looking pretty cool, so we'll go ahead and keep it. And let me just choose one more. I know I've been doing this a lot, but hopefully it kind of gives you an idea of, what I go through. So I basically can start my day doing these and then spend the rest of it refining some of them and getting into some areas that I like. So again, I really like this one. I don't want to mess with the areas that I just made, so I'm just going to remask this. I'm going to mask this area right here and keep this area and continue to do that. So I basically just continue to do this until I get to a point where I like it. The back is looking pretty decent. Maybe add some of these elements to it. Like so. That is looking really, really neat. Like I just got a really kind of nice, happy accident there. And trying to match these as well as I can. Look at how cool that looks, right? Again, just, like how long would it take you to get to that if you're just doing this from scratch? Probably it won't be this quick. All right, so let's create some interesting boot looking things here. That's good. And that as well. And I'm kind of completely going over that knee thing that I did, but that's fine. All right, and maybe one thing over here. All right, so I think I'm pretty happy. This is what I like. I'm going to go ahead and hit quick save so I don't mess it up again. And let's see, were there any questions? Okay, so looks like no questions. Good time to get a swig of tea and get on to the next step. All right, so the good news is I can always go back in my undos to where I started, right? So I'm going to go back to here. And let's see. All right, was this where I started? It was. All right, so man, okay, no worries. I think I just continued on from what this was. No problem. So what I want to do now is I want to take what I've got here. So my final result, right? So here's my final result. Okay, and this is Polypaint, by the way. This is my final result. And what I want to do is I want to apply that final result to my previous one, but that I kind of moved forward with. So if I was just continuing this from the start, then I would basically just go to this point and hold Control and click it. But since this is a duplicate, it remembers all of this from the previous one. Okay, so no matter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and since I've got UVs on this object, I'm going to go to Texture, Map, and I'm going to create one from Polypaint. So now I've got a texture map of this Polypaint right here, and I can apply it to this other model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to the previous one I had. And this previous one has this saved. So I don't need this anymore. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I'm comfortable doing that because I know that I saved it before. And I'm going to go to this one. And I don't know why this... It doesn't matter. Let's see if I can go back to it. I'm going to go back all the way to the start here, And I'm not even going to care about all the work that I did all the way to this point. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the texture and fill this with white. It's not white. Okay, so that's what I have starting out. And then what I want to do is I want to go to a, so that's kind of going to be my starting point. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control, click on this. So now I'm saving that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and project. I'm going to go ahead and go to texture map, and the UVs are here somewhere, I think. Where did it save them? Oh man, I didn't save the texture. That's fine. All right, well, this is a good time to go back into quick save and load that quick save, do it over again. All right. That's why I kind of got rid of those previous kind of heavy models, because I just wanted this process to go pretty quickly, and it will. Here we go. And we'll do this one more time. The thing I didn't do is I didn't duplicate or save that texture. Okay, so here's that texture right here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go here and create from Polypaint. There it is. And I'm going to clone this texture so I actually have a copy of it. And then I guess I could do this exact same thing here, where I'm just going to go ahead and hit Control and go over to this one. Fill the object with white. Is the texture on? No. Fill object with white. Actually, doesn't matter what I fill it with. So here it is. And I like this. So I'm going to hit Control and save this layer. While I'm at it, let me make sure that I also am saving a morph target. So I'm saving a morph target as well. Okay, so I've got a morph target saved, and I also have the undo state saved. Now, the good news is if I'd done this before, I didn't, but if I'd done this before, and the good news is I can go back to it, but the good news is that I can go in here and I can say, okay, I want to add this texture to this object, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick that from here. And now I've got that texture. And what I want to do is now I want to polypaint from texture. So now this has got the polypaint as well. I don't care about that texture anymore. I can just get rid of it. This would not be possible, of course, if you didn't have UVs, but since I do have UVs, I'm using this method. So now I've got this texture, okay? So this is the undo state, which is where there's nothing. And this is the state where it has this pattern on it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this new feature in ZBrush. Now before I used to do this, I used to go ahead and go to Polypaint, Mask from Polypaint. This is what I used to do before. And I used to go here, where is it, Mask by Color. And there was Mask by Polypaint and Mask by Intensity, Hue, and Saturation, and it worked well. But with this new capability, which is Mask Changed Points, this one right here works even better because it creates a gradient for me. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just click on Mask Changed Points. And basically what that's doing, I've got this here on my UI as well. What's that doing is it's masking all the points that were changed from what I had before. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and invert that mask. Okay? And now what I can do is I can just go here to Deformation and go ahead and hit Inflate. And I don't want to do this to a big number. I just want to do it a little bit. Okay? So here I'm just going to inflate it this way and see what it looks like. Maybe invert that mask and do it this way. And that is giving me this kind of little bit of pattern, right? I am getting a little bit of jaggies, but they're not that bad, okay? So that's kind of nice. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and maybe just do a little bit of polish by features. Again, not too much. And I can do that after I clear the mask too, if I want to completely get rid of and that's basically adding a little bit of smoothing to those areas where it was jaggy. Or I can always go in here and manually kind of do this as well, right? And the good news is I've got my morph target, so I can always use my morph brush. Right, I can use, do I have it here? I do. Okay, I can use my morph brush and just kind of take it back to what it was before, right? So I could do that, or I can just do other things too. But also, since I've got the morph target, so this is kind of the really, really cool part, is I can just go in here and go to morph target and say, okay, create difference mesh. And what that will do is it will create a new mesh for me that basically is just this, right? Okay. All right, so basically now I've got this shape. Now, I usually mask out the head and the hands, but here, actually, there's a really interesting pattern on the head, even though we're not looking at it. And so now I've got this shape, and if I didn't move out too much, so here, if I was on here, right, I could always hide the poly paint. I could choose to use it or not. Okay, if I hide the poly paint, this is what I get. And I can always go to that morph area right here. Solve that out. I can always go to morph target, and I can always use the slider to kind of move it further out or move it further in, right? And I can go completely the other direction too. So here, if I just kind of went a little bit, what I could do is I could get less of it, right? And let me see if this works real quick. Or is it going to do the whole thing? No, it's not. Okay, that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way down to this, where it's just the old model. And I'm going to, since this is polygrouped, it's easy for me to just kind of pick the different parts I want. So I want the arms, maybe this part of the arm, this part of the hand, and I want the torso, groin area, this and this. I'll do everything. Okay, so I'm basically just, it's funny because I want to just click, and if I drag, it's going to select, it's going to basically invert it. So I'm doing this, the bottom of that, the bottom of that. And the reason why I did this whole thing is because I want to mask this and then bring everything back. I also want to mask the thumb, but I can always do that manually just by control masking it. Okay, so all that part is masked, then I can just basically apply the morph target to the rest. Did I erase the morph target by any chance? Switch. What happened? All right, well, the good news is I've got that difference mesh. I can always use that. And what I wanted to do here is I wanted to remove the other part. So just as easy to do that here. I want to remove the hands, so I'm just going to do that here. So I'm just going to do this and start removing the hands, because I don't, unless you want the hands to be part of this as well. I'm just basically removing the fingers. See if there's a faster way to do this. The best thing to do also, you can take it down to lower subdivision level, but let's just leave everything. Okay, so now I've got all these different shapes, right? And if I want to start peeling out panels from this, I can. So let's say what I want to do is I want to peel off this kind of part right here, right? So then what I do is I can just go in here and go back to paint, pick black. Actually, let me fill it with white first, and then go to black, and then I can just start drawing out. It's a bit too thick. Start drawing out a border around it. And let's say it goes down this way. And I'm basically just defining where that piece has an edge. And you can always, by the way, use the shift key to kind of get more straight lines. And I also like this, thing that they did, which basically will allow you to, if this was not good enough, you can always go back after you're done with the entire drawing bit. If you want your contrast to be more, you can just use that feature to just go ahead and make your stroke stronger, and that works with paint as well as sculpting as well. I think I said as well twice. All right, here we go. All right, and that's kind of, maybe this is too much. I can do this like that, and all right, so I did all this, but I didn't do it on the other side, right? So that would have been, I'd have to mirror and weld the model or whatever, but now I think I can just mask by the object and flip the mask over, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, suppose I want to peel this off. So then I use Polygroup it. It's a plugin over here, Polygroup it. Where are you? Plugin, Polygroup it. Here it is, and let me turn polyframe on. So right now you can see that it's got its own polygroups. What I'm going to do is just make it all one polygroup, and what I want to do is I want this piece to be its own polygroup. So I'm going to say a border, and let Polygroup it churn for a little bit, and then it should give me a nice polygroup to where this is. And usually I would do this at a lower subdivision level. I don't know why I'm doing it at a higher one for here, but it doesn't matter. And since this model had a kind of a lower subdivision level, I could very easily go back to and reconstruct the subdiv. So let's see, there's some questions here. Diver Fiction B Selman, thank you very much. What is my preferred way of making models? Well, I'm showing you that right now, Nest. And okay, you find the border first. What set of paintbrush apart from regular painting? Okay, so good night, you guys. All right, so now what I do is I have a polygroup over here. If I just hide the lines here, you can see that what this did is it created a polygroup. I guess, so here's kind of the problem that I had, is that towards the edges of this, the paint was not very strong, right? So, so that's not going to work for me. So I'm going to go back to what I had before, and once this is done, so here, this is where these lines were drawn, right? And this is where it started, right? I think the drawing started somewhere. I'll go to where the drawing started. Right, so right about there. So now if I want to get a better border, what I can do is just put Control-click here, and then everything to here. Okay, and I think it's under Stroke. What I want to do is I want to, where is it? Replay last. No, where is it? Strokes count. Okay, no, that's not it. Adjust last. Okay, so what I want to do is just do this, which basically will replay that more and more and more. So those areas here, and I'll just kind of add to it, those areas that kind of were softer in the corners, that's basically going to make them more kind of to stand out more. And the reason why I'm doing that is because what I want to do is I want it to pick this inside part as a polygroup. That's that whole effort. That's what that was for. I mean, of course, I could have masked it and kind of done a polygroup from mask as well. But here, what I want to do is, since I've kind of gone back to this, I'm going to go and see if I can do a reconstruct subdiv. So, nope, it's not taking it. All right, that's fine. All right, so now I've got this. I'll launch Polygroup it again. And, nope, that's not what I wanted either. That's fine. We'll just let this thing load for a minute. I guess it's just going to transfer the model over. Since it's heavy, it's going to take a little while. More tea. I don't think I can hit escape. I don't know if I can just close this as well. Oh, okay, so yeah, it took a little bit of time to load this into Polygroup It. We don't want Polygroup It. What we want was border. And that's going to still take a little bit of time. So this would be a good time to ask any last questions that you had over the process that we went through today. So next time what we're going to do is we're going to take this character and we're going to start peeling off all the different interesting panels that we have and make them into separate geometries. So let's say we got the okay from the art director or the director or whoever, and they basically said, okay, well, you know, this is what I want, but I want it to be more fleshed out. So then we basically will go ahead and do that. So hopefully, okay, so now it again created, I still have some leak points over here where the color wasn't as deep. So I'm going to go ahead and just do an after the fact here of just deepening those colors. And again, I don't really need this to be too precise. I just need it to not leak through. And those are leak points that it is going through. So I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Border again. And what that's going to do is it's going to make this all a single polygroup, but it's also going to make the inside a different polygroup as well. So let's see if this does it right here. And I don't think I missed any kind of corner points. Usually when I do this, I turn on snap to last in Lazy Mouse, so I don't have this problem. All right, here we go. Got exactly what I wanted. All right, so this inside part now is its own polygroup. So what I can do here is just go to Subtool, duplicate the model. All right, and then I'm just going to hide this other one. If I control click on just this, it just has this polygroup, right? And then I can just delete the hidden parts. I don't need them. So delete hidden. And then this piece right here is what I've got. And this has all the detail that I want. So I'm going to keep this. And I'm going to duplicate that one more time. And I'll just ZBrush it. Go down here, geometry, ZBrush it. And that will give me kind of, you know, it gave me decent topology. Let's go ahead and take a look at it with line. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so that's always good. And then now what I want to do here is get these edges to be better. So I'll just go to edge loop and let's I'll do group loops. 4 is fine. And now I've got these nice crisp edges on it. And now that I have that, I'm going to ZBrush it one more time. Sometimes I do that before, sometimes I do that after the group loops, but it was pretty dense. So ZBrush worked out pretty good before that. So one more time, ZBrush. And this is giving me pretty decent topology for what I want. Let's go ahead and keep it to the same. ZBrush it. And this is okay so far. What I want to do is I want to get those details that I had before. So I'm just going to go ahead and project those details on. No, I don't want polypaint. So now I've got this. And I'm going to do ZBrush one more time. Just because I want to get that topology around this that was really nice before. Okay, here we go. Exactly what I want. All right, so this piece is kind of done. Now, I just go to Dynamic Subdiv under Geometry, which is over here, and turn it on. I don't want smoothness, but I do want a little bit of thickness. A little bit of thickness like this. That's okay. All right, so now I got to kind of get rid of these corners that are bent a little bit. And a good way to do that is to offset your thickness. So I'm going to offset it so I get something a little bit better. And I have a dark color chosen. Let me go to a lighter color so you guys can see what's going on here. And this is good like that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go ahead and apply this. And then ZBrush it one more time. but I'm going to keep the polygroups, right? So I want to keep the groups and zero mesh it again. All right, now I'm getting a little bit better edging over here. Right, and I'm going to do this one more time, but go to half the size. Let's see what we get now. All right, haha, look at that, perfect. Okay, so now that I've got this, I like it, right? So now I can just go ahead and say apply, or I guess this is applied. It's the whole thing. And I do have a couple of edge loops going through here. I might need to do a little bit of cleanup on these sharp inside edges, but not too much. I don't want to really touch the outer edges. And then what I could do here is I can, excuse me, again, go in and do edge loop and group loops and get some extra edge loops around here. Now it is getting, these edges are looking a lot better. And then what I want to do here is I want to, how many groups? Let's see, I added quite a few. Group loops, and I don't want triangle. Let's do that. So you can see here, but that it's adding a lot more colors that I want, but that's fine. What I'm going to do next is I'm just going to go ahead and crease some of these edges. So I'm going to go to under geometry, under crease. I'm going to go ahead and crease polygroups, and yeah, that's way too many polygroups in here. So what I want to do here is just kind of limit the number of polygroups. I want definitely one on top. I want this one, and I want this one. All these other ones can be the same polygroup, right? So now that's done. I'm also, I think I've got a good number of edges. So I'm just going to go to ZModeler real quick and delete a couple of these edge loops. Oops. Delete that one, and maybe delete this one right here. Nope. We delete that one. Okay, so now I've got this kind of edge over here, and maybe delete this one too. All right, good, and maybe this one. So now I've got this kind of edge over here. That's okay. And down below here, there's quite a few. I don't want this edge. Let me do nothing on the polygon here. Okay, I want to get rid, oops, not that one, but this one, edge, this edge, and maybe this one. Okay, so now, going the wrong direction. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so now basically I'm going to do crease PG. There it is, and let's just add a little bit of bevel to this. That's cool. And now, you know, if it kind of looks buttery in some areas, what I can do now is just go, okay, well, if it's looking buttery and I don't like it, I can just go ahead and do this. Now I've got this shape. Actually, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. And then I can I can do one of many things. One is I can use one of these new brushes. I think I added them to my brush list over here. And to use a rounder brush to create kind of a round area here if I want to. Let's see what this looks like without poly. Maybe a little bit less. And do that, right? So that's kind of cleaning up that area. And let me do one over here. And again, I'm using this exact same thing on a low poly versus a high poly to get kind of more of these angles. And then with the move brush, and turn AccuCurve on and start kind of maybe helping these along to just kind of get a little bit of a sharper edge over here. So now I've got this part, and I can continue to modify it or whatever. And of course, if I unsolo this, so I've got that detailed version over here, which I don't need anymore. But if I bring the guy over, then I basically have this piece over here, right? So now I've got a panel, or I've got an armor piece that looks like that, okay? And if I like that armor panel, I'll just copy it, And then I'll go to my original model and paste it. All this to just get to that paste button. Here we go. All right, so now there's that piece. Where is it? Solo on? No, transparent on, but where is that piece? Here it is. Okay, so now I've got that piece. I like it. I'm going to mirror and weld it to the other side. And there it is. So, you know, little by little, I'm just going to work on every one of these pieces that I have in my design and get them to look like this. So I'm going to quick save this real quick, and I'll show you some of the progress that I did on that other model of how these things ended up. And then next week, or sorry, in 2 weeks, you can we can kind of do more of them in here. So hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of what this piece looks like right now. So this is kind of his shoulder piece right here. And again, I would probably use the move brush with AccuCurve to get these to be a little bit more angled and more, you know, hard surfacey, because these probably are not going to be kind of as smooth. Somebody was mentioning I could use the knife tool. Definitely could use the knife tool if I you know, didn't want to lose the topology that I have. I would definitely use the knife tool, but I can always retopologize it after that as well. So here I'm just kind of getting this. And again, this is, you know, this can be subdivided. I can add some extra detail on it. But here I'm just kind of getting it to a point that I like as just kind of like a panel. And again, this, you know, the idea of this came from that painting, all that painting that we did. And yeah, and I can always push this in a little bit further. And I can also go in here and let me turn symmetry on. So I can do this on the other side. And since I have this, you know, as a object, I can always polygroup, push things in, and do all sorts of interesting things to it. Again, if I don't like the depth of it, I can always erase those. Since they're polygroups, I can always erase those and do newer versions of them for the depth piece. So here it is, right? So this is kind of one panel. All right, so let me go back and load that starter project and show you what this thing. Yeah, I don't think I need to flip the normals. I think the normals are fine on this. I don't have double on, so the norm is. You can do mask and extract. That's another way to do it, or you can use the other brushes that are there too. There's a lot of different ways of doing these things, by the way. So just kind of letting you know. But I just wanted to show you one kind of workflow that I use a lot when I have to do rapid development of different characters. Okay, so now we are getting to the point where, let's see, yeah, we've got about a few minutes left. And I'll, you know, driver fiction B, you ask mask and extract, I shall show that. But the reason why I wanted to do that is I just wanted to show you kind of what kind of results I've gotten from this. So this was the original image, so kind of like what we were working on before. Right, it looked like this. And what I did is I played around with this and picked the parts that I wanted and moved it to kind of something like this. So I just sculpted on it and detailed things out. And then I basically liked that chest area. So what I did is I extracted, no, this is the back. Here we go. Here's the first chest piece. So I just basically extracted this out and sculpted on it a little bit. Here's kind of a lower res version of it, right? So there it is, right? So, and then I basically created some depth, and this is kind of the result I got, right? And so it's subdivision level 3, and here's what it looks like at subdivision level 5. And if I unsolo this, you can see that that paneling looks pretty cool like that. I'm keeping the colors the same, but I can always kind of make these a different color, right? And you can see here that I also extracted this shoulder piece, which kind of looks cool. I've also extracted this piece on the bottom here. And so let me just go ahead and fill object that with this color. So all these pieces, except the hands, a lot of these pieces are just kind of pulled out from the model. And then little by little, you know, I mean, this part here, it kind of looked like it needed to be softer. So I kind of put a little bit of a protection piece in here, but then just sculpted these lines in. So, you know, you do a little bit of traditional sculpting, and you also can peel off different armor pieces and create the model that has all these things. The base mesh was pre-made, yes. So the base mesh, again, just coming back to circling back, was one that I bought from this fellow right here, Alexander Ladosha. I'll go ahead and pick his, put his store in the chat. And so you guys can get that base mesh. It's this one right here. And I have my own, but I kind of like this one because it has some of the landmarks that I want, and I can use those landmarks. But like I said, he's got two new ones that I also picked up today. He's got this one and this one right here. And I like those because they've got additional body parts. And what I mean by that, I guess I'll end with that part, is that if I like that, for example, I like these different body parts here, I can just copy this and bring it over to where my guy is, which is over here, and paste it. It's probably, you know, the proportions are not going to be right, but that's okay. I can always just go here and make it bigger until it matches what I've got. Like so. Let me turn transparency on. And I probably would move the arm out or whatever just to match this. I guess I can just do that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and use mask lasso. And just rotate these so kind of, you know, turn symmetry on. Does it have symmetry? All right, okay, so I guess I just need to move from here. And just match these more or less to where this one is. And the reason why I like this one is because I'm going to put it in a folder. That's fine. I'm not going to name it for now. And then what I'm going to do is split it to similar parts. Split to similar parts. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's just going to separate all these into different pieces. And then I can just go in and use some of these pieces for different things. Like, let's say I like that piece right there, okay? So I'm just gonna go and hide all these as a whole, and then just pick that one piece over there. And let's say I wanna use that piece for my model. I can just bring that forward and use that as or kind of a pre-made version of something that I can use. So it just kind of saves me a little bit of time. So the reason why I got that model is because I kind of want to use this feature with this. So I just kind of will match this over to here or move it up or whatever. And then it's just a you know, a good kind of topologized piece that I can just go in and modify and use for that. So hopefully that's answered your questions. Lots of patience. You know, I mean, I don't know. I guess if this is what you want to do, you kind of develop the patience over time. All right, we'll turn symmetry on for this guy. And that's good. Yeah, so just do that. Okay, so I'm just here using the knife brush to go ahead and, you know, create some interesting parts of that. But the good news is, you know, the reason why I have all these parts is because, like, I've got all these different parts. Like, let's say I want to do something with this. I like that, but I don't like it that way. I can just use the knife brush to do this. Now I'm basically creating armor pieces from this just by kind of cutting it up. But it's where I have it, and it also has kind of the muscle definition of that area. So now I basically just created this one piece that can go over there. So, you know, a lot of different ways to do it. You don't have to use one way and have it be your way. You can always kind of switch back and forth. I use all sorts of different ways of doing it. Somebody was asking about masking and extracting. I do that as well. So let's say if I wanted to get this stomach piece as a mask, I can always go to mask pen here, like so. Okay, and just, why aren't you masking? Oh, because I'm not on that part. Yeah. All right, let's turn polyframe off. And let's say I just want that kind of stomach piece as its own separate item. So I can just go and mask this. This is another way of doing what I did before. The polygroup part works really well if you just want to do a whole bunch of different parts with one shot. This works if you're just going to do one thing. This is probably a lot faster. Right, so you just mask this as good as you can. All right, and then what I like to do is, let me turn polypaint off because that will help you see it better. Maybe choose a different color. Okay, so I just basically mask this part off. And what I want to do here is I want to make sure that that mask is pretty strong. So I can go to the masking menu. And of course, I can always do this by clicking on it as well. But I just wanted to sharpen the mask. And then let me grow it out. Sharpen it again, grow it out, sharpen it again. Okay, this is good, but I don't really want this part here. I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm going to get rid of this as well. And you can always kind of go down to here under, I think it's under Subtool, and extract. And extract the mask, so you can do it this way. But I found a really nice plugin called Extract Plus or Extract Plus Pro or whatever. I like it so much I added it to my menu here. It's Extract Pro Plus, and if you click on that, what's really nice about this is it basically goes and extracts it, and also ZBrushes it for you and puts it as a separate subtool. So now I've got this. And what I could do here is there's some edge loops here on the outside I don't want, so I can just always go in here to ZModeler. And does this have subdivision levels? Nope. Okay, good. So I'm just going to solo it out. And suppose I don't want this, I can always go and say delete polyloop. And I can kind of start, oops, not that direction, but this direction, and just kind of cut into it. And here I don't want this one part right here, so delete island. Per point, but for polygon, delete island, and I don't want these two pieces, so they're gone. So now I've got that piece as a separate piece, and I can always go into dynamic and go ahead and add some thickness to it, and no smoothness, so maybe a little bit more thickness. It's way too much. I'll just do it here. So you guys can see where it is. It's under dynamic subdiv and thickness, and just kind of go a little bit like that. That's good. And maybe add a few segments, maybe 2 or 3. There it is. And just apply. And now that generates that piece, right? So now I can go to unsolo it, and now I've got this separate piece here that is just that piece. So that I use that workflow as well. But the reason why I drew that outline is because I could spend maybe about an hour or so just doing it on the entire model. And then it will basically create a different polygroup for each one of the different items here. So then I can just do all of them in one shot. Okay, so Dynamesh with the texture concepting would be cool. Maker JP, I don't know what you're saying there. Maybe you can elaborate. So the knife curve is awesome. The knife, the knife brushes that they added, these ones right here. So knife lasso and knife curve. These two are like those things that you always wonder like how you lived without them. And I used to have tricks to do the same thing with the trim brushes. I had kind of ways of doing the same kind of thing, but it was 3 or 4 steps. Now it just is one step, and the topology it gives you is really nice too. So yeah, again, it's just every version they add cool stuff. All right, so I'm going to call it a night. If you guys have last questions, you can go ahead and ask away. I think we're a few minutes over. We can go another 3 or 4 minutes. So if you guys have anything else that you want to talk about or ask, this would be a good time to do it. And if you are watching this again after the fact, you can always type in your questions, and you can always type in the questions in the comments, and somebody will get back to you and answer them for you. Fernando, hello. Sorry you came in towards the end, but this will be available on YouTube and Twitch after I'm done. So, the extract plugin, no, I bought it. It's actually here. Let me see if I can find it for you. It's one that I bought, and I think there's a free version as well. Let me find it for you so I can you can see it. I have to just that's not what I wanted. Let me just go to my library here and see if I can find it. Extract Pro. I think if you just do a search for Extract Pro, you should be able to find it. But I'll give you guys the link. I mean, it's it's basically saving you 2 or 3 steps. Extract Plus. Yeah, I think there's Extract Plus, which is free, and then there is the one that is, it's by this guy right here, and there it is. So I'm just going to copy the link and put it in the notes, in the comments. So there it is, Control V, and it's this one right here. I'll just bring it up. So yeah, there's the Pro Plus, which is $5, and then there's, I guess he's charging for it now. So there's the Extract Plus, which is $1.99, and I think this thing is paid for itself 100 times over. So I think I had the Extract Plus first. I think it was free first, or maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. I either bought it and then bought the Pro version, or yeah, I don't remember. But it's definitely a cool plugin to have. Somebody else was saying something about the chisel brushes, morph, chisel, or panel loops for final details. Absolutely, yeah, we'll be doing that. So next week, what we'll be doing is more of that paneling. So we'll be kind of cutting pieces off of the model. I don't know if I'm going to use the one I have, or maybe make a new one. I don't know. But we're going to be cutting off the pieces and then shaping them and sculpting on them as well. So yeah, we'll use the chisel brushes. We'll use all sorts of interesting things to kind of add those details. So yeah, I guess that's it. Tips to do a 1/4 of a circle with the knife. 1/4 of a circle. I don't know what you mean, like a kind of a slice, like a slice of a circle. Is that what you mean on your roll? Oh. Morph chisel, we'll get into it, Comics Legend. You should watch the next episode. So Fernando, just watch this after the fact. It's going to be on YouTube, like I think maybe minutes after this is over. Like rounding off a panel. Oh, yeah. So if you want to round off a panel, the corner, you can always use the bevel thing that I did, but you can always do this too. So here I'll do a quick and dirty thing with. Let's say I'm going to make another panel right here. So I'm just going to mask. Let me be on this piece right here, and I'm just going to mask this area, and then I'm going to sharpen that mask. All right. So let's say I'm doing this, and then I'm just going to extract that out. All right, and there's that piece right there. Okay, so, and what I want to do here is just go to it, solo it out. And what you're saying is you want to mask this corner. Let me add some thickness to it. That might make more sense. Dynamic, no smoothing, but a little bit of thickness, like so. Let's add maybe 1-2 segments. All right. Okay, so you're saying something like this, and what you want to do is you want to round this edge. One way of doing it is you can always use the, so it's creased already for me, but I don't want this middle one to be creased, so I'm gonna, it doesn't matter. So one way of doing it is if you create, if you have a crease on it, you can always go to the crease menu, and then you can do a bevel width. I don't know, it looks like this middle one's kind of interfering with it, so I'm going to go to crease and edge loop, complete, and with Alt it should uncrease it. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we want to, oh, that's why it didn't work. I haven't accepted the polygroup, the dynamic yet. So here's a crease and here's another crease, and then I can just go in and just do bevel width and then create that. And if I don't want it to be so sharp, I can add resolution to it a little bit like that, right? And then I can just mask all the rest of it and just kind of do the beveling or kind of rounding out of those. So here I can just go ahead and mask by, I'm going to go ahead and just unmask. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Let me go to ZModeler, mask, polyloop, and I want to mask this guy. Oops, am I deleting? Don't want to delete, I want to mask. Delete mask polyloop, and I want to mask this one and this one, invert that mask, and then just go ahead and I guess these are all in one polygroup. I don't know why, but it doesn't matter. And so here I can just go ahead and inflate just that part a little bit. So I have to just kind of go out just a little bit, and that kind of creates that roundness. And then if I subdivide it, that's a bit too much. So I can just inflate that a little bit, or I can always, manually do it as well. Or I could just put the gizmo in there and do it. But another way to do it, which is a newly introduced way in ZBrush, is to use the kind of the rounder brushes. So here, there's just too much going on here. I'm just going to select this and not the rest. Turn symmetry off and do it. So all I'm seeing is that piece. And yeah, so here, probably zoom this out a bit too. If I want to get kind of a round edge over here, what I can do is I'm going to turn polyframe off, and then let me subdivide this a couple of times. All right, so I've got that kind of bevelly edge here, but I want it to be rounder edge. I can just go ahead and use the new rounder brushes. Where is it? So there's a bevel, and then there's a fillet. I'm going to use the bevel one, and then just go from here to here and just do that. It helps if you, kind of put some sort of a guideline for yourself. So here, what I'm going to do is go down in subdivision levels, back to 1. And so this poly loop here is kind of going around it in an even way. So, I could use it as my guide. So what I'm going to do here is just go to ZModeler brush, poly loop, polygroup, or sorry, polygroup, polyloop. Not that way, but this way. So there's that yellow, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So now I kind of have an edge that I can go off of with that brush. And then I just basically go to that brush again, over here, bevel, and I can start from one edge of the yellow to the next and just round that. You'll see it more if I don't have that on. And then just continue to do that around the model to get that rounder edge. This will take a little bit longer, of course, but let me go up in subdivision levels here. So, yep, so you can start here and end here and just round that out and just kind of keep working your way down. And, it works out pretty well. If you want to just hit it with the smooth brush. And now you get that perfectly rounded edge. And I could have gone around the entire model and done that. So that's one way of doing it. But of course, you can always polish it as well. So you can always go to deformation, and polish crisp edges. And continue to do that until you get kind of a softer edge over here. And if you don't want to affect the rest of the inside part, you can always mask that out. So hopefully that answers your question. With insert multiple edge loops with interactive curvature. I was asking how it accurately reduce curve similar to 1/4 of a circle with a knife or a clip curve. Yeah, you can mask everything else first. That's right. Did that answer your question, Yuri Roll, or are you still trying to figure it out? Yeah, so mask everything first, and you can do that kind of round edge. There's different. I think Paul Gabry has a lot of really good videos that go through and show you how to do bevels. Like I think he has one video where he does a bunch of different bevels. And that's a really good one to kind of maybe go back and watch. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that he did it. So good. All right, folks. Well, it's been great to spend this time with you. So again, just quickly to remind you, if you like this video, like it. If you're watching it after the fact, it doesn't hurt to drop a like. If you want to watch more of these, you can subscribe. I'm going to be on in 2 weeks again, continuing this project. So I'm on Friday nights from 7 to 9 Los Angeles time, I guess. If you have comments about what you saw, leave a comment. And if you have questions, you can always ask after the fact in the comments as well. So again, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great 2 weeks, folks.